Hey, what is up, boys? My name is StevieWunderKid, and welcome back to another Fast and Furious car replica build here in GTA 5. In this video, we are going to be recreating the very famous Bayside Blue 2002 Nissan Skyline R34 GT-R that was, of course, owned by Paul Walker or Brian O'Connor. This was the car that appeared in the fourth Fast and Furious movie, otherwise just called Fast and Furious. This was the car that Brian pulled out from the FBI database and basically used it to infiltrate the Braga drug cartel, and this was the car that he used in that first race. Eventually the car was destroyed, but still very iconic and beautiful car, and I'm really happy that we can create a somewhat good match here in GTA 5. So first off, obviously for this replica build, we are going to be using the Annis Elegy Retro Custom. Now, you can pick up an Elegy Retro by buying a normal Annis Elegy RH8, either from the Legendary Motorsport or Benny's websites. You can get it either for free if you're a member of Social Club, or you can purchase it for $95,000, and then you're going to need to take it to either Benny's or your CEO office workshop and do the Benny's upgrade for $904,000. And then because this build is actually pretty simple aesthetically, you're only going to be spending about an additional $100,000 or so just for the visual mods. So just about $1 million or so for this build, which really isn't all that bad. Of course, if you add the performance mods, that price will increase, but still, considering that you can have a really iconic car that is, again, a very beautiful example of a proper Bayside Blue R34 GT-R, I think the cost is well worth it. So we're here in the mod shop now, and I'm going to show you guys everything you need to recreate this really beautiful car. So first off, obviously, we're not going to be going over any of the performance modifications. That's up to you. That's down to what you have unlocked and what you have the money for. But let's go into the aesthetics. First off, in bumpers here, in the front bumpers, we're going to leave the front bumper stock. Now, I am very well aware that the car in the movie was obviously an R34, and the car that we have here in GTA is kind of a mix of an R32, R33, and R34, so it's not perfect, and therefore some of the body modifications aren't going to be a perfect match either. As is the case here with the front bumper, we're just going to leave it stock. This actually does look pretty close to the stock front bumper with the Nismo body kit for the R34 in the movie, but there's no close match that we can get to match the look of the extended carbon lip below the original bumper. The extended front diffuser is kind of close, but in my opinion, the carbon lip sticks out way too far. The splitter with canards also, the lip is reasonably sized and still keeps that painted lip below the bumper there, but it also has obviously those big canards on the side. So I think to keep it a little bit cleaner and still retain somewhat of an accurate look to the movie car, just leave the front bumper stock, as you guys can see here. Next up for the rear bumper, this is really simple. We're just going to leave it stock, as you guys can see there. There's no other match that will get us closer to the kind of built-in painted diffuser that was on the rears of these R34s. So just going to leave it stock there. Next up for bumper accessories, first off in the bumper meshes, we're going to remove the bumper mesh so that way we can see the massive intercooler just below it, and in the intercoolers option here, we can actually add the logo to it to kind of emulate the look of the big Turbonetics logo that was on the intercooler on the movie car. So for this, we went with the logo monster intercooler here. In my opinion, this is the best size for matching the intercooler from the movie car. It's got kind of the exposed end tanks on the sides there, and it's obviously got the text across the front. So in my opinion, the logo monster intercooler is the best match there. Next up in the chassis here for the headlight trim, just gonna leave that off, nice and simple. The doors, just leave the doors stock, no deflectors, and then the fenders as well, we're just gonna leave those stock as well. So nice and simple there. Moving back out in the engine here, this is also pretty simple. We're just gonna leave the engine mainly stock. So the engine block itself, we won't upgrade that. Same thing with the cam cover, we're just gonna leave the stock cam belt cover, as you guys can see there. Yeah, for the most part, you really don't see the motor. You see Paul or Brian putting the motor in the car, and for that, it's just a normal RB26. So based on what we know, the motor is stock. It's obviously tuned up a little bit, but visually speaking, it looks the same as factory. So all this stuff will stay stock except for the strut brace. That I know. I was able to find a picture of the car's engine bay, and the motor is stock, but there is a titanium arc strut brace across the front there. So to recreate that here in GTA 5, we're just going to use the wide titanium strut brace. I think that's the best match there. And then obviously engine tunes, that's up to you. Next up in the exhaust here, we went with the chrome tip exhaust to match the look of the aftermarket muffler that was on the car. It also has a fairly small exhaust tip, so I think the chrome tip exhaust here in GTA is still a pretty good match to that, which is why I chose this. I think it's the closest you can get. Next up in the grille, we're just going to leave the stock grille as well, so that way we have the paint around the bezels, and then obviously we have the Elegy logo as well. Next up in the hood here, there's first off in hood accessories, we're just going to leave those off. The hood on the car in the movie was pretty much stock and nice and clean, but for the hood itself, there's a couple options that would work. For me personally, I think the most faithful and the cleanest option is the vented hood, as you you guys can see here. So this has obviously the big singular vent going down the center, and that really closely matches the look of the Nismo hood on the R34 in the movie. So I went with that. Moving back out, horn, just leave it stock. For the interior here, we can actually get a really great match. First off, for the trim design, we're just going to leave the stock trim, so no stun strip. And then trim color, we are going to run a black steel. And I'll cover this again a little bit later on, but the black steel is going to give us a pretty close match to match the black on the seats with the door panels and keep everything kind of one nice flowing black color. Moving back out for the dash here, we're just going to leave it stock. I am very well aware that the movie car did have like the big display over where the kind of the AC vents would be to so that way he can monitor all the other drivers while he's in that race, but we really can't get the look of that in GTA 5, so we're going to leave the stock dash there as well as the stock dials. Unfortunately, there really isn't a closer match that we can get in the game. So stock dial design and stock dash. For the doors, we're also just going to leave the stock door panels, as you guys can see. Next up for the seats here, we chose the carbon track seats. In my opinion, this is the closest possible match you can get to the styling of the seats with the bolstering as well as the cutouts there to have the harnesses fed through. So that's all set. Next up for the steering wheels here, we are going to choose the Apex Clubman to match the look of the Momo wheel that's on the car in the movie. And obviously we have the little two buttons there as well for the nitrous. We always got to have nitrous. It's a Fast and Furious car. What do you guys expect? So yeah, Apex Clubman steering wheel there. For the light color, we're going to keep it nice and simple, and just to keep the gauges somewhat bright and visible, we're going to choose a frost white. Next up for the roll cage here, the car actually did have a roll cage, but it was a very discreet half cage, and that's actually what we've done here in GTA. We ran the street half cage. The movie car actually had a black half cage over the rear seats there. Unfortunately, we really can't get that close, so we're going to run the street half cage, and that is tied to the primary color of the car. Interior is all done as well. For the lights, first off in headlights, we're just going to leave those stock, and then the car did not have any neons, so we're just going to leave the neons off. Nice and clean, very refined, which is nice. Next up here, we have the livery, and obviously once again, we're just going to leave the livery off because the car was one solid Bayside blue color, so keeping it nice and clean. Next up in plates here, for the plate holder, we're going to remove the front plate, which is obviously as close as possible that you can get to the car in the movie. The car in the movie didn't have a front plate either. And then for the license plate itself and the rear, we are going to keep the stock blue on white 2 plate that came on the car because that's the closest possible match to the California plate that's on the movie car as well. Now, if you guys do want to recreate the plate number, it is 3DHI832. That is the official plate that shows up on the back of this car. So if you guys wanted to do a custom plate for this build, then you could do that too. Next up here in the respray, this is actually a pretty simple respray, which is nice. So for the primary color here, we're going to go into the metallic section, and then it always unselects it. I'm sorry about that, but I'll scroll back down. We are going to choose a metallic blue. Nice and simple. So we're going to run a metallic blue for both the primary, and as you guys can see here, the secondary color is also a metallic blue. So that's nice and simple. But since this is a metallic and we are trying to get closer to the Bayside blue color, we are going to add a pearl. So back in the primaries here, we are going to add a, not a surf blue. That's the one that comes on it by default. Yeah, there we go. So we are going to add the racing blue pearl, as you guys can see here. Really, the blue shade that we have here in GTA isn't a perfect match to Bayside blue, but using this combo of the metallic blue with the racing blue pearl definitely does liven up that blue a little bit. It gives it a little bit more depth, and in my opinion, it is a pretty close match. This combo of colors is definitely, I think, the best you can get in vanilla GTA. Obviously, you could go one step further and pull a crew color and get a custom hex, but just here in GTA, the metallic blue with the racing blue pearl is pretty close. For the trim color, I covered this earlier. Of course, we do the black steel, so that way we have one kind of clean black color throughout the entire interior, just like the movie car. Next up for the roof here, roof accessories, just leave those off. And then for the roof itself, we're also just going to leave the roof stock. Moving back out, for the skirts here, we are going to do these side skirt extensions. Although these do kind of stick out a little bit too far in my opinion, I still think that these, in addition to the factory skirts on the LG Retro Custom, is actually a pretty darn close match to the look of the Nismo body kit that's on the R34 in the movie. So side skirt extensions there, I think, are the best match that you can get. Next up for the spoiler, this is a pretty controversial one, but there's really no perfect match that you can get for the LG Retro Custom in GTA. So what I did was I tried to go for a wing that would look the most OEM on this car. All of the other spoiler options, obviously these are the crazy ones, but all of the more discreet spoiler options, in my opinion, just don't look as OEM as the Carbon Classic RS wing. So this obviously is a pretty similar style to the others that we've seen. Although it doesn't match the exact style of the wing on the R34, it still is pretty darn close, and you guys can see it does also have the carbon bridge as well, which pretty closely matches the flap that's on the R34 Nismo spoiler as well. So I think the most OEM looking one one and therefore the most faithful one is the Carbon Classic RS Wing, as I chose there. For the suspension here, we are just going to leave the suspension stock because the car in the movie actually was fairly high off the ground, so that's nice and simple. Next up, transmission turbo, that's up to you. Here we go in the wheels. So for the wheel type here, we're going to head into the sports category, and we are going to choose chrome rims, and we went with the organic type 0 rims. In my opinion, these are absolutely the best match. They have like the split, I believe, 7-spoke design, which is pretty close to the rims that are on Brian's car in the movie. Although the chrome rims aren't a perfect match to the kind of gunmetal chrome shade almost that's on the rims on the movie car, I think still the chrome texture itself definitely gives these rims the shine that they need. The shade isn't perfect, but in my opinion, still the best that we can get here in GTA. So the chrome organic type 0 rims, I think, are the best match. So that's all handled there. Obviously moving back out, because these rims are chrome, we can't paint them. For the tires, the tire design, we're just going to leave the stock tires, nice and simple. And then moving back out, the very last piece of the puzzle is the window tint, and for this I just went for a light smoke. This will smoke out obviously all the windows in the back there. The movie car obviously just had the quarter windows and the rear glass tinted. We can't get that detail in GTA, so we're just going to tint them all, and the light smoke I think is the best match for that. So that is everything that you guys will need to recreate the very iconic Bayside Blue Nissan Skyline R34 owned by Brian O'Connor or Paul Walker that appeared in the 4th Fast and Furious movie. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this build. I really enjoyed making this car. It was really nice kind of making something nice and clean, kind of nice change of pace for all the other Fast and Furious builds we've done on this channel. So anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you found it helpful. As always, feel free to leave any other suggestions for builds you'd like to see me do down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.